so silly looking. Look at that. Now, how could anyone resist that face? You know something awful? I can't. You know it. This is not just any old picture, you know. This is my little Joe. I think he's beautiful. I really do. And I love him so much. No matter what he ever does or wherever he goes, my heart will go with him. I'm mad about them.
I know you are.
Shall we begin? Are you guys all ready?
I'm all set.
Okay, perfect. All right, count it down and 3, 2, 1. Wait, 3, 2, 1? I went backwards. Wow. Okay.
For the outtakes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Garland Gab. We are back. The OG3 is back today. So we've got myself, Carly Jade, Connor Grant, and of course, Sarah Westhead. And today we are going to be discussing Judy in the role that she was, in my opinion, truly born to play, a mom. So we're going to be discussing the relationship she shared with her 3 children, Liza Minnelli, Lorna, and Joey Luft. And as well, as you all know, we love to dispel all those nasty rumors. That's really what we're here for anyway. And we will, of course, dispel some of those rumors as well that are attached to their kids and the relationship they had with their mom. So really to start off, I'm sorry, I'm really unprepared. So to start it off, well, why don't we start where it all began, when Liza Minnelli entered the world. Liza Minnelli, of course, made Judy a mother. She was born in March 12th, 1946. And during this time, it was a very happy time in the relationship and marriage with Vincent Minnelli. And in my opinion, a lot of that I think is due to the fact that for the first time in 11 years, this was really the first time she was actually able to relax and not have to worry about, reporting to the studio. She was home to be able to move through her pregnancy and enjoy and embrace every bit of it and embrace the fact that she is about to become a new mother. So during this time, Judy would spend a lot of her time doing your typical nesting. You might find her on the floor scrubbing tile, or you might find her baking a cake. It just depended on her mood for the day. And she also absolutely loved to make friends with the house staff as well, as Vincent still had to report to the studio every day. This would leave her alone with herself and the staff. And so that she built quite a good friendship with them, and awaited the birth of her little baby girl. And on March 12th, 1946, via cesarean section, Liza Minnelli came into the world.
Literally singing all that jazz.
Singing all that jazz. And it's funny because I think I remember Judy once said that she knew right away that Liza Minnelli was going to go into show business because she wouldn't stop kicking. Which I thought that was really cute. So yeah, thoughts on, I mean, there's so much to unpack with Liza Minnelli. There's so much to unpack with their relationship, with her career as a whole, and all of that jazz. So I open the floor.
Well, it's interesting, I suppose, when you talk about Judy preparing for Liza's arrival, because really that was the first time in a decade or so, that since being signed with the studio, that she wasn't working and really was just focusing on herself and impending motherhood. And I love those stories of her baking a cake and apparently I think she used every pot and pan in the kitchen, and somebody still had to keep coming and clean it up afterwards.
That's probably why she was so friendly with the house staff.
Probably. She was like, sorry, but would you mind? I just wanted to make an old vanilla cake there. We've said it before, we get a glimpse of baby Liza in the oven until the clouds roll by.
Yes. Oh, I should have started there. That's where she made her true screen debut.
Yes.
Can it be? Never guess who has stolen my heart away. Dreams I know can never come true. Seems as though I'll ever be blue. Who means my happiness? Who?
Love to the anecdote that Judy loved to tell when she was pregnant and carrying on with singing a number called Who, and here she is sticking out to here and she's singing Who Stole My Heart Away.
I love the sense of humor.
Going to each man.
Who? Today it'd be like, who's the daddy?
Yeah, I was just going to say the story about making a mess in the kitchen makes me laugh as well. It's so like me. I go to cook something. I don't bake, but I do cook, and I trash the kitchen. And that's before I've even done anything. I just like stand there and I just make a mess. But now, Liza, what can you say? She became a legend herself. She's still with us. She's still so famous. She's so similar to Judy in so many ways, and yet she's so much a dad in so many others. She could not deny her the parent.
Yep.
And I think the same with Lorna when we get to Lorna, but I think as they got older, I think they developed more of a kind of sisterly relationship. And as someone, I'm a daughter I'm not a mother like Carly, but I'm a cat mother. Who's someone who's very close to my mother. It's always sweet to see that special relationship with a mother and a daughter.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I always it still wows me to this day when we hear people that don't know that Liza Minnelli is Judy Garland's daughter. It's I like that she was able to make a complete separate name for herself, and that she was able to detach from that legacy and go on and have a career in her own footsteps. She wasn't following in anyone's footprints. And we still, I was speaking with Carrie the other day, and he asked me what we were doing for today's podcast, and I said, we're speaking about her children, Liza Minnelli, Lorna, and Joey Luft. And he goes, what? Liza Minnelli is her daughter? Now, mind you, he's not into any of that anyway, so how would he know? But it's just, it's one of those things, right? Like, Melanie Griffith is Tippi Hedren's daughter, like, you know what I mean? So she's really been able to break out of that mold, which is nice.
And the other one, what's her name? The Halloween films, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She's Janet.
Yeah.
Janet Leigh and Tony Lee Curtis's daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Carrie Fisher as well.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There's loads, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they go hand in hand, but Liza Minnelli stands out on her own, which is great. And it's, like, even you can't deny the relationship though, because one second she looks a carbon copy of her dad, the next she's a carbon copy of her mom. And
I have to show this because I was looking at it earlier. Now maybe we can insert it in editing if it doesn't come up clear, but this just never ceases to amaze me.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So,
I thought that was
Liza, Judy.
Yep. Yeah.
Like what? Like how? And then the next day it should be the image of Vincent.
Yeah. I thought when I very first saw that picture, I thought it was Judy. And I also find too, when Liza was quite young, when she was a teenager or in her early 20s, she really resembled Judy when Judy was in her early 20s. There was a freeze frame in For Me and My Gal. I'll have to grab it and throw it up on the podcast, but it's just from the profile, and the face that Judy makes is Liza. Like, it stopped me in my tracks. And it's funny because her features are so strong, and so that's pretty. Anyone who thinks of Liza Minnelli, they think of her eyes, they think of her, like, she's got very, very distinct features, but it's Judy,
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing as well?
Of course.
There's a photo of Judy, it's 41 or 42 or 43, with her niece, Judeline. And when I first saw it, I thought it was Liza. And when I saw it, I'm like, but Judy looks too young there. And then it says it was a niece. I was like, oh my God.
It's the one where where the niece is kissing her cheek, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I thought it was Liza too.
And what a all the kids were gorgeous, but what a gorgeous baby.
Oh,
Eliza was. Oh my God.
Stunning, beautiful
like a
baby.
Little doll. I mean, I'm more of an animal person. No, it's no secret, but she was. I can understand why both Judy and Vincent, they did dote on her, didn't they? I think Vincent said he used to just like watch her lying there. She was definitely the cutest baby in Hollywood at that point.
Oh yeah.
And those home movies that show Judy coming into Liza, they were released as a supplement to the Judy and Sid documentary, I think it was. But they are incredible. It's such a glimpse of Judy as mama. Like, she's literally going in to get Liza up in the morning, no makeup on, just like any other mother. And there's another one, are they sitting on like kind of a balcony thing or whatever, and she's like it's just adorable.
Yeah.
That one makes me really nervous.
It's like, hold her.
She's pulling a Michael Jackson here.
Remember, Judy looks gorgeous as well without some makeup on. That always strikes me. She looks so young. I'm like, and there's a video of her putting her on the potty as well, isn't there?
Yes.
That's Judy as mama, because again, there's a lot of myths about Judy as a mother. I think there's some not very nice stories in Lorna's book, but if you read them in context, you know why it happened. Lorna puts them in context. I remember when her book was, just before it was released, it was in the National Enquirer. There were snippets, and it made the book sound like it was going to be a like mommy dearest kind of thing. But once you see these stories in context, you realise how like I don't know if you're familiar, Carly, with and the butcher knife one.
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll get to it when we get to Joe.
Yeah, like, I mean, Lorna makes it very clear that any of those type of stories, like that wasn't actually Judy in one sense carrying it out. It was her mind under the influence, unfortunately, of later stages of addiction.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, that was not what she would have done had she have been of her regular mind.
Yes, I mean, I'll mention it when we get to that, but she said, like, literally her mum would have killed anyone who hurt Joe.
Yeah.
She said, like, she don't even think she even knew this was Joe. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And nowadays, there'd be more help for both Judy and the kids, but you do have to, I'm just going to have a drink, you do have to read it in the context. So it's always one of them. I'm a bit nervous about people pulling out.
I don't know if I've heard that story.
We'll tell you.
And just circling back to those home movies, that's something when those came to light, I mean, I'm sure I speak for everyone, that's something that I never thought we would ever see, especially from so long ago. You know, it is by absolute chance that we were able to have those, you know, especially to be released to the public. And it gives you, again, as we've just said, it gives you a completely different look into the life of Judy Garland. And, you know, yes, you do have a lot of those appearances in the 50s and 60s where she is being herself, but you don't really see that really at all in the 40s. You see her on camera and on film, and you hear her on radio. It's very rare that you're able to have an actual glimpse into her life at home. Everything is always hearsay. And then you've got these beautiful home videos of her just being mama. And like you said, Sarah, not a lick of makeup on. She is just, she's in her little house coat. And there was one video, I think it was in that little reel of those home videos, but it looks like it's at the tail end of one, and it looks like she's putting oil or some kind of cream on Liza's hands for her near the end. She's and it's just little things like that, you know, you really get to see that she was a very hands-on mother. And Vincent says in his book that she was, you know, she wanted to do everything. She wanted to everything except diapers. she was not a diaper person, but she wanted to do everything. She wanted to be the one raising her daughter. And I think that that's really beautiful. You know, that's beautiful.
I think I mentioned it before, and you'll know what I'm talking about, but the photo on the set of The Pirate, and Judy has the little toy phone.
Yeah.
Obviously Liza's little phone, and it really is, you know, no matter who or what you are, if a 2-year-old gives you a toy phone, you say hello into the phone. It's like whether you're Judy Garland or the Queen or something like that, you know, it's gorgeous.
Yep. Yeah. I love those shots on the set. And again, like we've said this so many times, of course, Pirate was such a grueling shoot. There's a lot that has been said about, you know, her state of mind throughout the entire production. But again, it's those little behind the scenes shots where she's taking that break and she's with her daughter that she just looks ecstatic. She's elated to have her there. And there's one where she's playing with the bracelets with, I think, Walter Slezak's daughter. They're playing with the bracelets on her wrist. You know, she was very good at taking that time to just kind of have that escape and just step aside from Judy Garland and enter into mama.
I think a lot of the problems on the Pirate as well stems because she did have postpartum depression, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she was anxious about signing a new contract, about going back to work when she's had such a lovely time away from the studio. She probably just wanted to, even though she loved to work, she wanted to work, she needed to work. She probably just wanted to stay home with Liza and carry on getting well because she got so well.
Yeah, and I think that I could be completely wrong, and this one's totally off my head, but I think the postpartum depression for her kicked in a little bit later. Like it wasn't when she gave birth. She was really good at being a new mom. It was when the topic started coming up of her going back to work. that it started, because I think she wanted out. Remember, she didn't want to go back to MGM. She wanted to go off to New York. I think she wanted to do Broadway. She wanted to have her own career and be in the driver's seat of her own career. But it was when, MGM was really putting the pressure on her, and then she was back to work where it started again. And she went right back to, I think anyway, I could be wrong. Am I wrong?
Oh, I think you're right. I don't think
Yeah.
it was straight away either. I think it was a little bit down the line.
Yeah.
That's the impression I get when she went back to work.
Okay. Yeah. And because that's also when she went back on her medication as well. And that was the other point I wanted to touch on. She was completely clean, by the way, throughout her whole pregnancy and giving birth to Liza. She was completely clean. And Vincent makes a very strong point of that she had the ability to do it, and she did it. And that just again goes to, I know we're not discussing that side of things, but that just goes to show how much pressure the studio was putting on her. You take the studio out of the equation and she's good. And she's able to, get herself on a right track and be of sound mind. And, that puts it a lot into perspective as well as to, the path she went down.
Yeah. And I think it's just a reflection of how much she wanted to be mama as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even 20 years ago or whatever, like as soon as somebody who smoked found out they were pregnant, they give up, they don't touch a cigarette for the whole 9 months, and nobody questions it because you've got the baby. You don't touch a drop of alcohol because you've got the baby. I think it's just a real reflection that how much she wanted to ensure safe delivery of her child.
Yeah. Exactly. And that dispels another myth, that she wasn't a good mom, that she was a drug addict first. No, she was not. She was mom. She was mama first. She did everything she could to make sure that her baby was healthy, and she would do anything for those kids. So
I think a lot of people forget that there were periods in Judy's life where she did manage to come off the pills.
Yeah.
I think they think from Wizard of Oz onwards, she was just off her face on drugs till she died.
But as late as 1968 she was off them.
It's just a shame. And it was always that thing. It was always the fact that she had to go back to work. She didn't have to work. She'd have probably come off them longer.
Oh, I think so. If she could have semi-retired in some way and just made an occasional, say by the time the 60s came along, if she could have done a TV special once or twice a year and maybe a concert or two, if she felt like it, I think, be very, very different.
It would. And when Lorna came along, there was still all of that pressure that she needs to work.
A Star is Born was coming.
Yeah, A Star is Born was coming. She was, she was in her concert career at that time. She needed to be singing. She needed to be on stage to provide for her family. And the postpartum depression with Lorna started right away, pretty much, right after she was born. It started. And because of all that pressure. And had she just been able to lay back and actually enjoy new baby, enjoy new motherhood, I don't think that would have happened. I mean, postpartum depression is such a loaded topic in itself, and it's not always because of outside external pressures that cause it. It can just happen. But, I think a lot of that for her was, it had a lot to do with just all of that pressure building up on her shoulders.
I'm just going to turn the light on. Carry on.
I was just going to say, I think that was also around the same time, and mum passed away as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember the full timeline.
Her mom, so Lorna was born in November of 1952. Her mom died January, I think it was like January 5th, 1953. So it was within a couple of months. Yeah.
I mean, that's hard.
Oh, that's really hard. And I know she had a lot to unpack in that relationship with her mother as well. She hadn't seen her mother, I think, by that point for several years, I think. it had been, and then to all of a sudden lose that parent, and when you have so much unfinished business, and yeah, that would have put a lot of pressure. And I think she did kind of, if I'm remembering correctly from Sid's book, she did kind of go down the drain a little bit with that.
Yeah, I think again, even though Lorna was a baby, I think Lorna does allude to that. I love Lorna's book. The only issue with it, which is probably the same as with Sid's book, is Sid was still alive, so she could only say so much about him. So she couldn't mention the fact that Sid was gambling away all the money. So in Lorna's book, it makes out that it was Judy that needed the money. It was Judy living extravagantly, when most people who knew Judy said she didn't live that extra. You can see she wasn't as extravagant as other film stars. It's there, you know, it's the evidence is there. But she said, yeah, she it was an exciting period, because she had Star is Born coming up, but I think, yeah, it was a difficult time. I think she managed to, she didn't completely come off the medication with Lorna, but she did manage to pull back on it a lot. Oh, there's the funny story in Lorna's book about her being convinced she was going to die.
Oh yeah.
I know that one.
And she was saying prayers with Van Alves, is his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously in the film, they kind of have that character Lottie. I think she's a mixture of a few different real people in Judy's life. She's not a real character, but she's a mixture of a few. And she was just convinced that she was going to die, her and the baby. And then that Lorna was born healthy, Judy was fine. And then he sat down, because he found it quite touching that she was saying prayers with him. Was like, do you want to say one of our prayers? And she was like, what for? I lived, didn't I?
Yeah.
We lived, didn't we?
And she threw a party, like a goodbye party for all their friends before she was due to give birth to Lorna. And at the end of the party, bid everybody a tearful farewell. She was like convinced.
Yeah. It's not like Judy to be a bit dramatic, is it?
Oh no.
It must have been the hormones or something, just all over the place.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. Yeah, I wonder if she was like that when she was pregnant with Liza. I don't think she was. I think she was more so, let's get it done. Let's get it over with.
Yeah.
She seems very content in the pregnancy with Liza, from what I've read.
Yeah.
Evie, just sit there washing your armpits on the podcast.
I do remember another little story from Vincent's book about how when it was explained to Judy that because of her narrow pelvis, she would have to get a C-section done, and that Judy was ecstatic and so relieved to have to go that route, because she had zero tolerance for pain. So she's like, okay. She didn't want to do a natural birth anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame her. Childbirth scares me, but that does. I've often read. I've read that in a few books, you know, about being scared of childbirth and having a low pain threshold. But it always baffles me when they say she had a low pain threshold. When you think about like that kidney infection she had, you know, she's had broken bones. Yeah, I'm thinking, how she got a low pain threshold if she's like having all these injuries.
She had that big scar on her eyebrow from that beam coming down and whacking her in the head in Girl Crazy. Yeah. She's pretty accident prone, that one, but
maybe it was just the childbirth in general. Like, it was very different then. There wasn't as much. I mean, I assume there was gas and air at the very least. I don't even know, you know, but I'd say the painkillers that are available today weren't then.
No, they weren't. No. And it's funny to me because, like, I mean, I've only given birth one way, but I would assume a C-section, even though, yeah, you can, and she was put out for it. She was completely put to sleep to have that done. But afterwards, a C-section takes a lot longer and is a lot more painful to recover from. So,
even today, it's 6 weeks. Yeah. Today, you cannot drive, you cannot lift anything heavy, and it's 6 weeks recovery time.
Yeah. So I don't think she was thinking that one through. But she didn't have much of a choice anyway. So The doctors were like, oh, you'll be fine. It won't hurt a thing.
You don't hear much about a recovery period though, do you?
No.
No.
Unless
And
she
Vince
was,
doesn't talk about it much, just that she was happy and
because she was quite resilient. She was known for like being quite having quick recovery.
Mm,
So maybe that's why.
well, she wasn't human, so.
yeah,
Exactly.
very true.
Okay, so we've just kind of touched on Lorna, and then should we move to Joe, and then we can kind of circle back and discuss relationships
Yeah.
and whatnot? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then in 1955, in March of 1955, along comes her one and only precious little boy, Joey Luft. And we had a comment on our YouTube channel, on the oh God, I'm losing myself now, on the teaser that we posted, of someone wanting us to go through Joey's birth story. Yes, Joey was premature, but I believe he was only about 2 weeks premature. Judy was scheduled for a C-section mid-April to bring Joe into the world, but as for everything in Judy Garland's life, nothing went to plan. So she was showing signs of labor in the early hours of March 28th, and she went into hospital and sure enough had her little boy. Judy at this point knew that this one was going to be her last child, and she was hoping and praying beyond anything that it would be a boy. She had always wanted a boy, even going so far back as when she was pregnant with Liza, though she was ecstatic that she had two girls. And then she finally got her baby boy. And what happened was one of Joey's lungs hadn't opened yet, which is something that's pretty common with C-sections because there's no struggle. The baby doesn't struggle to be born or to get air, so the lungs sometimes don't cooperate. So that's what ended up happening with Joey. Joey was actually only given a 50% chance of living, so it was a very stressful time. But of course Sid knew about it and Judy knew about it, but in the time period where they were waiting to find out whether or not Joey would live, neither of them spoke a word about it to the other. Sid was with Judy and supporting Judy through that whole time, but neither one of them said a single word to the other. Kind of that, out of sight, out of mind. If I don't acknowledge it, it's not going to happen. And Judy especially was very brave through the whole thing. She was confident and knew that Joey would live. She did speak of it, however, to Liza. She did call Liza after Joey was born to tell her that she had a new baby brother. And Judy said, if I can remember correctly, she said to Liza, "They tell me he's going to die, but he won't. I know he won't." And Liza just remembers Judy's voice when she said that she was so confident and just as if it was nothing. No, it's not happening. And it didn't. Joey's lung opened and they received their miracle baby boy. Joey was placed in Judy's arms and she wept uncontrollably. And I actually just wanted to share an anecdote from Judy by Gerald Frank. It reads, "The first time Judy was permitted to hold Joey brought her to tears. She held him against her shoulder, patting his back gently, hoping to stimulate and strengthen the weak lung, and discovered to her astonishment that her baby's tiny right hand was seemingly patting the back of her shoulder, as if to comfort her, in turn, as if to say, 'Mama, I know what you've gone through. It's all right. I'm okay now.' That special mutual caress would exist between Judy and his mother always."
Oh. And maybe just to add, of course, in the middle of all that was the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
So she was obviously nominated for A Star is Born and had intended attending the ceremony, but they were so sure she was going to win. There was a television crew set up outside the hospital, like they built scaffolding up to the hospital window, and the idea was the television cameras would capture Judy, you know, recovering from Joey's birth and winning the Oscar and all of that. And as she tells the story herself an awful lot better, but when she didn't win the Oscar, you know, she still said it didn't matter. She got something much more important than the Oscar that night.
Yes.
Yeah, again, Lorna mentions that Joey was her precious. They had a different relationship. I think obviously because he was a boy and she wanted a boy, also I think because he was the baby. I'm the youngest as well, and I was the sort of one who was kind of doses on him, you know what I mean? And the fact that he nearly died. I think she had lovely relationships with all of them, but I think with Joey it was something different.
Yeah.
And they always say it, don't they? It's daughters and their dads and sons and their mothers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lorna mentions how jealous she was of him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She like climbs in his crib and scratches his face.
Oh yeah. Middle child syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing we didn't mention is the fact that Liza made a film debut with Judy.
Oh yes, that's right, she did. After the clouds roll by.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she made a film debut before she was born, actually. But her actual film debut she made with Judy.
So did Lorna and Joey, technically.
Technically.
They are in the background, if I could go on singing.
For those eagle-eyed viewers.
Yes. And I think they all possibly, I'm not sure, they all made their stage debuts with Judy. I'm not sure when Liza's first time on the stage was, though, because I know she was doing dance training from a young age, so she probably did shows.
I have a vague recollection of a story from Liza. Was it around the Coconut Grove era that Judy brought her on stage to sing Swanee and then gave her a check for like $5 or $2 or something, and was like, that's your first professional pay?
Wow.
I love that. She used to dance, didn't she, while Judy sang?
Yeah, I think yeah.
And I love obviously she when she has all the kids, she'd like sing different songs for them, you know, the ones associated with them, or they'll sing or she'd sing ones they liked. And she'd sing, was it Joey or Lorna, where she sang Rockabye and said, Lorna likes the loud ones.
Yeah. What I love, and this is just in general, I suppose, you know, for all of them, but those little glimpses on the Judy Garland show that you get to see the real relationship between them. I mean, there's the Christmas episode, which obviously we can talk about, but is at the end of one of the other episodes, I can't remember which one it is, but she goes down into the audience and she's sitting just kind of chatting in the audience, and Lorna and Joe come over to kind of surprise her and kind of bound on top of her, but the look on her face is so real and genuine. And like, I just thought, you know, like, she's in this very glamorous white evening gown sort of thing, and they're just bundled it in on top of her, and she doesn't give a shit like that she's wearing this dress or and she's just straight away, you know, it's just so motherly. It's just so lovely.
There's a radio appearance that Judy did, I believe in the late 50s, and Lorna interrupts.
I love this.
Lorna interrupts and Judy just goes full on mom mode, and I think she tells Lorna to go get in the bath or something like that. And it's so sweet. Again, it's those little glimpses of just seeing Mom and Judy just flipping back and forth from a role as Judy Garland to Mama.
Yeah, I love that as well. I was gonna say, I know some people have like said she was a bit too much, you know, with the kids on telly, you know, there was a whole kissing on the lips and stuff like that, even though my parents kissed me on the lips as a kid. And I know this is something me and you don't agree on, Carly, just because you're a boy mum, I'm not a mum. I love her singing Dirty Hands, Dirty Face to Joey, but I don't like the one in the election, because I feel it's too emotional. And even though I love Judy because she's emotional, I don't know what it is. I feel like it's a little bit what's the word?
Is it overwrought?
Overwrought. That's the word. And I don't know whether I've got a feeling, obviously, it's not long after he was born. I'm pretty sure all the emotions of what happens were there, so I get it. But I just don't know what it is. And it's not normally, I don't normally react like that to Judy when she's being emotional. Usually I'm right there. When she sang that song on a TV series, I was right there. When she sang Lorna to Lorna, I was like, oh, do you know what I mean? So I don't know what it is. I really don't.
I don't know, because I've always thought it was cute. I always loved it.
I haven't watched it in a very long time, to be honest. I'll have to revisit it, actually.
Is it me being a bitch?
No, because Steve Saunders writes the same in his book, that I think he says something to the effect of rarely did her instincts go wrong when performing a song, but he felt it went wrong in this one. So yeah, you're not the only one.
So maybe it's because she was an emotional singer, but she was always so natural.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't for a minute think it was forced, but I think because it was overwrought, it was just a little bit too much. I don't know.
So that was on the Jubilee, no, not the Jubilee. That was on the GE Theatre. So that was her second television special, right?
56. Yeah.
It was like a year after he was born, so
it could have something to do with the fact that maybe because she was uncomfortable, right? Like with being on with doing that live television. I know she was really uncomfortable for Jubilee, but maybe she was still kind of having those nerves and she just didn't know how to
channel it.
Yeah, how to properly put out, the emotion.
I mean, she didn't have the big dramatic build up like she did with Ford Star, but I think she did have laryngitis. She's had an injured ankle, hadn't she? Probably the experience with Joe's birth was probably still quite raw. Probably the realization that she wasn't having a film contract was still quite raw. She didn't win the Oscar. She looked amazing, so she didn't have to worry about her weight or anything. But what they were doing with the choreography wise was completely different. So maybe that made her nervous, the styling, even though she looked absolutely incredible. And, maybe that's why.
I think there's a bunch of different factors. And to be quite frank, if I was told to stare at a picture of James and go on public television and say this, I'd probably look the same way too.
Same if I have to do it with my cats. And I am sorry, I didn't realise till after I cut over you then, sorry, Carly. And
no.
My mouth just went blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was done, I think. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of different factors. I think it was just the public, I think she was just nervous. That's not a natural thing to do, to go onto television and sing to a picture of your son, and to display that kind of emotion. It would be, it's genuine, but it's going to look that way. You know what I mean? It's going to look overwrought, I think.
But she'd never, I'm right up to that point. I don't think she had any sort of public performance or anything to do with the three children in a public manner up to that point. So yeah, you're right. It's the first time it's if it's the first time she's coming out on stage with a photo of her child to talk about her child, it just, all those factors sort of knitted together probably.
Yeah. I'm sure if she was holding Joey in her arms, she would probably look more true. But again, a picture, it's a strange scenario, but I always liked it.
I think they were going for a bit of a Dear Mr. Gable throwback as well, weren't they, with the photo? But I think when it's your child, have them in your arms. But yeah, it wasn't her fault. I don't think it was anything she did.
No,
it just the factors didn't work for me. And I'm an emotional person, so I don't know. I'd probably be blubbing, but just didn't come across comfortable.
Yeah. Where should we go from here? Like I said, I don't have a script really at all. I just wanted to have an open forum of, we can discuss all of our favorite anecdotes,
Yeah.
Judy and Mama. Do either of you have anything off the top of your head that you wanted to toss in here or discuss?
I think I did. I mean, I like the anecdotes like you did, Carly, about Judy taking Joey and Lorna to the zoo in London and swatting the bee away from that little kid all day. And then people realised who she was. She garnered loads of attention. Then the Lorna's eye patch when she had stars and she decorated it. Then she did the same for a broken arm. I think I kind of have different things. Like my favourite Liza anecdote, I think, is the one where she said she was in the toilet somewhere and someone kept saying, Judy, sing over the rainbow, sing over the rainbow. And oh no, Judy, never forget the rainbow. That was it. Never forget the rainbow. Never, really drunken, woman. And Judy turned around and said, how can I forget the rainbow? I've got rainbows up my arse. That's what she'd say. Lorna, it's those little things. Joey, I can't think of any anecdotes for Joey. Just he doesn't talk as much, but it's more just seeing their bond together.
Yeah.
And I think I probably identify with, I know Liza kind of was a bit of a caregiver for a bit, and then Lorna took over. I'm going through something similar with my own mother now. She's getting older, so I can sort of relate to that. And yet I watched my mum care for her mum and dad, and she was always like, I'd hate you to have to go through this. And now it's happening. But again, as people, I think people think Judy was often helpless. She wasn't helpless. She was a mother. There was loads of good times. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. Someone else.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think you've kind of said a lot of the same things that I like. The stories. I love the story of Judy putting the makeup on Lorna, and then Lorna said that was something then she ended up doing with her daughter, and that had carried on that way, So yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm the same now. I'm kind of like, yeah.
I do love how Lorna said, because on that somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody like obviously said, was your mother a terrible mother? And Lorna was like, no, my mother wasn't a terrible mother. She said she was the best mum that she knew how to be. So I think what she meant is there was problems. She did make mistakes. We'll discuss them in a minute. I don't know any parents that don't make mistakes, depending on the circumstances. But she says everything she learns about being a good mother, she learned from her. And I know in a book she's very more pro-Sid, but that's before she knew a lot about, the financial things, and she couldn't say too much. Sadly for Lorna, she found out later the truth about her dad. And she did love her dad to bits, but obviously the relationship was a little bit strained after that. And then she became all for a mother. And I think later on, Joey became a bit closer to Sid, where he's in the past, it'd been Judy and Sid, it'd been Lorna, daddy's girl, Joey, mummy's boy. I think after years later, I think that reversed after Judy's death. I think Lorna became all for a mum, and Joey was quite close to Sid. There's the funny story about the Savoy with the shoes.
Oh, I love that.
You know that, don't you? It's on.
Oh, tell it.
Oh, they were staying in the Savoy, which is where I saw Laura, funny enough, do some songs my mother taught me. And they were going up, and Lorna was like, Mum, why have they all got the shoes outside? And Judy was like, oh, they want them cleaned. So obviously these like really rich people, wanting someone to clean the shoes. So Judy got a little gleam in her eye. So wouldn't it be funny if we switched all the shoes? So they went round just switching them all, different floors, just laughing the whole way.
I love that.
Because that was in London, and I believe the London period was in 1960, was a bit like Liza's pregnancy and birth. I believe that was a very, very tranquil Although she still was dramatic, because I think Lorna got an appendicitis and Judy and sisters on the Queen's doctors or something, was it?
I think so, yeah. Well, look, when you're the woman who picked, well, I know it came later, but when you become the woman who picks up the phone to President Kennedy, I mean.
Yeah. That's
Or
too
hires the FBI to see where Sid Luck went because she didn't believe his story.
Oh, what a beauty.
I also like, you know, I'm not sure if Liza's talked an awful lot about this, but Lorna does in her book that, you know, when she's reflecting on working with Judy at the Palace, that, you know, she does emphasize that Judy taught her to be professional, that you show up knowing your material, you know, and how to work with the crew and how to do all of that with it, you know. So again, like, despite the legends and the myths and all of this about how difficult she was to work with, you know, it's interesting that she was imparting onto her daughter, well, you know, if this is what you're doing, this is the way you need to do it.
Yeah, because I do think Judy did try her best to be professional, because often these stories that when she wasn't well, when she was, you know, she'd taken too much medication, but even the TV show, yeah, Judy was always late. That was one of the things. She wasn't a morning person like myself, I sympathise, but everyone says she knew everything. She knew. I reckon Judy now would have been a producer, director, all sorts, because she knew all about, you know, everything. It's just unfortunate, the circumstances and the time.
Yeah.
She lived in, even though that was perfect for her talent. But imagine the role she would have played now, where she wouldn't have had to have been the girl next door. She would have been doing all sorts. But yeah, there's often a lot of conflicting stories that don't match the legends, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And that's
speaking of her being just, you know, a professional, one thing that always shocked me, because you hear, especially in terms of the Annie Get Your Gun production, I mean, she was let go from that because they were, you know, they just couldn't deal with her. But what always shocked me was the fact that when she was doing Annie Get Your Gun, she was showing up on time every single day. She was trying. She was there. She was present for it. She did all that she could to go on, and they just didn't give her the chance.
You
know,
they should
like,
have delayed it till she was well. I'm kind of glad now she didn't do Annie Get Your Gun, even though we still have I'm an Indian too, because we have all that cultural appropriation for the Indian. What you were saying as well is Royal Wedding. I mean, I like Stanley Donen, but I don't like the way he spoke about Royal Wedding and Judy, because he's blatantly barefaced lied. Judy showed up for every single rehearsal, fitted everything for Royal Wedding, and I think, was she late or something for one?
Yeah.
And they were waiting for that one chance, and then
they were waiting. Yeah.
It's like they were trying to set her up for failure. It's like they were looking for ways to.
She wasn't even supposed to do the film anyway. She was helping out because June Alison was pregnant again. So they asked her to fill in and then get rid of her, put Jane Powell in. Why didn't they just put Jane Powell in as a replacement in the first place?
Yeah.
Yep.
And Stanley Donen later on was like, Judy Garland didn't show up to one rehearsal. Well, Stanley, we've actually got all the production logs and you're just lying.
Yeah.
And that Dory Sherry, who can't stand, tried to blame Fred Astaire, going, no, she couldn't work with Fred Astaire anymore. Fred Astaire wouldn't put up with it.
Fred loved her.
Exactly. And there's a story, it's actually in the Get Happy book, even though that's a bad book, he gets the part about Annie Get Your Gun and Royal Wedding spot on. He does. He's got all the production logs, and apparently the day she missed, sorry, I know we're going off topic, the day she missed the rehearsal was the day before she was showing off her How Could You Believe Me When I Said I Loved You costume, and apparently people were saying she'd looked the most beautiful she'd looked in years, and she was getting wolf whistles, people were like, you know, thingy, and she was all made up posing, and Arthur Freed came along, like, not meaning to be rude, but he was preoccupied, and he just like went, what are you made up for? Do you know what I mean? And she started crying, and went, and that's when she didn't come the next day. And apparently, no, it wasn't that. It was the Ginger Rogers thing, wasn't it? Where she was escorted off the Barclays to Broadway when Fred says, "What are they doing to that poor little girl?" So Fred obviously had sympathy with Judy. Just got my stories mixed up. Shut up, ignore me.
Okay.
That's all good.
But yeah, if you delve deep, that's why I love the stories about Judy hiring the Queen's doctor. I know she didn't live extravagantly, but that was extravagant. Getting the FBI out for Fred, ringing the president, because the Tom Green story, it's quite bad.
I love that story.
What is that story?
The jewelry one, when she rings the ambulance. Did I tell you this?
You did. You told her on the last podcast or the podcast before.
What happened? I don't remember.
So Tom Green, like, she wants to get back at him, didn't she? And
sold her jewelry
because he had sold her jewelry or whatever, and he was staying in some hotel or whatever, and she rings or phones the 911 and gives an Oscar-worthy performance about how you have to help my fiance, and I think he's taken an overdose, and I think he's staying in this hotel, and please will you come, you have to pump his stomach, and you have to do this, and Oh, but he's got a Judy Garland fetish, by the way. He'll go on about Judy Garland. So the hospital people come take him away, and he's like, Judy Garland did this, and they're like, sure buddy, and the Munchkins helped her.
Oh my God.
And Lorna writes about that in her book, that, like, you know, if you add the effects of chemical dependency to the fact that Judy was one of the greatest actresses, underrated greatest actresses of all time, you've got a bit of a lethal combination there.
Never a dull moment.
I mean, again, I'm thinking of that now. I mean, now they wouldn't be able to pump his stomach without like permission or consent, or without doing tests. So I don't know whether that's exaggerated, that story. But those stories, I love them, because a lot of people go, poor Judy, she was so helpless. And but she wasn't. Even Lorna says, anyone who thought my mum was helpless didn't know my mother. Go on, Connor.
Do you know the story, Carly, of when she set the clothes on fire?
No.
With Mark Herron, right? So they're staying somewhere. I can't remember where they're staying, some beachy sort of location. And
I think it was Hawaii.
Was it Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're staying in Hawaii, and Lorna and Joe are off or whatever for the day. They come back towards the rented house or whatever, and Lorna describes it as, there was Miss Garland herself sitting out the front in like the big movie star sunglasses and the big sun hat, sunning herself and all that. And as Lorna and Joey get closer, she very casually says, don't go in the house, will you? It's on fire.
What?
And they're like, what? You know, and she goes, yeah, I'm burning Mark's clothes. Because she wants to get back at him for something.
Oh my God.
So she set his clothes on fire. And then to add to the insanity, Steve McQueen was staying nearby who saw the smoke and comes running in. And Judy goes, Steve, it's not the movies. Sit down and relax. Wait for the fire brigade to come. And then to finish the day, she signs autographs for all the fire brigade people and sings a few bars of Over the Rainbow for them.
I know what she was. I know what she was getting back at him for, and it makes it even more crazy. It was a really horrific argument they had the night before. And I think it was when Lorna says it was a first sort of like education, you know, into like her mum's troubles. Her and Mark had a really bad fight. I actually think Mark might have hit her because she was holding her eye. They do allude to this in Me and My Shadows, you know, that fight. And Lorna was like cleaning up the mess. She had to have Pepto-Bismol because she was sick, but she said it was horrific. Like Mark running around naked. They were both like under the influence. And it was she woke up the next day like expecting this to be like, you know, really somber or like dramatic. Probably they'd split up, but no, this is what she goes away and they come back and it's like a freaking comedy. This is before they were married, so they stayed together.
God.
It's depicted in Me and My Shadows as being the end of the marriage, but it's not. It was like earlier on.
Wow. So let it be known, never get on Judy Garland's bad side.
She'll have your
Duly
stomach
noted.
pumped, or she'll set fire to a wardrobe,
Oh my God.
or reenact the pirate.
Yeah. Throwing everything out within reach.
Well, speaking of that, that if you don't mind, that'll bring me onto the story about the butcher knife.
Go for it.
If we wanna dispel some myths about Judy being a horrible mother, going down a mommy dearest route, even though we also know that mommy dearest is completely exaggerated as well. That wire coat hangers never happened.
There's a whole, sorry Sarah, there's a whole Facebook page and I actually follow it called Christina Crawford Lied, and I'm inclined to believe that it's all, that 99% of all that is exaggerated. I don't, like June Allison and all contemporaries of Joan Crawford say, no, she was a little bit crazy, but not like, she was a little bit eccentric maybe, but like not the way that's just depicted at all. So yeah.
From what I gathered, I felt like she just disciplined a bit too hard because she'd had a tough start.
Yeah, and maybe unintentionally, like not realizing in a way, you know.
Because the twins loved her, didn't they? Okay, that was a different time. But I mean, I think Christina's admitted that she made up the coat hanger story just for dramatic effect, but that's the most well-known part. But unfortunately, like later in Judy's life, you know, she did the effect of the pills did take effect. All her children speak very fondly of her, and that's very telling. And they will say that any kind of bad things, it wasn't the real Judy. And even like Lionel, the butler they had, he was the one who said the bad thing she did, that was a head, it wasn't a heart. She was a wonderful woman. But Lorna, it's quite hard reading some of this. Lorna mentions about night rage she used to have, when sometimes she'd have too many, then there was other times she'd be withdrawal, so she'd have like strange seizures and things, where like I think one time she just wandered into Joey's room. I don't know whether it was a seizure, she was sleepwalking and Joey was like terrified, like what's this, and then she just walked out. She'd have things like seizures, and then other times it would become like the pirate. She'd have what they call night raids, where she'd throw things, she'd like break things. And it's not funny, but there was one night, I think she was with Joey, and Lorna wasn't there for some reason, possibly with her dad, and she was in the kitchen and she started like chasing Joey around as if he was some phantom. And he was running, and then she picked up a butcher's knife and hurled it, and it just like missed him. And it was snowing, and he ran out and he legged it towards he went to Liza, I think Liza and Peter Allen. But they I think Lorna did say when they looked back, they found some humour in it, but I can't remember what, considering like how dramatic. But she said like that was not the mum. Judy didn't even know that was Joey. So we do know stories about her hallucinating on the set of Summer Stock and things like that. And it is sad because, you know, like, I mean, as much as she adored the kids, if that was happening now, social services would step in. They get both mother and children help, and she'd likely get the kids back once she was better. Because I do have a background in health and social care, so I know that they would intervene. But it's just sad that there was no recognition of things like that. I see it through work. I see people, I mean, I'm more with learning difficulties at the minute, but I've worked a lot with mental health, and you know, it can be quite irrational. They're seeing things that aren't there. One person I used to support used to speak to Grace Kelly, funny enough, all the time. but yeah, no, that's a story that was in the Inquirer, and it was taken completely out of context. And I think that's where that Stevie Phillips mentions of throwing a knife at her. And I think Stevie Phillips, there's no evidence that it happens with Stevie Phillips, but I think that's where Stevie Phillips kind of got the story from.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think I might have heard that one a long time ago, but yeah, I mean, hearing a story like that, especially as a mother myself, it's incredibly difficult to even imagine, and to imagine what poor Joey was going through. And yeah, like when you are under that kind of that influence, and you do kind of, I mean, I don't know firsthand, I don't, it's never happened to me, but you would be a different person. You would be stepping out of your body. Your personality completely changes. You know, there's a lot of stories from, I remember one in particular from Sid, where, you know, Judy was under a great deal of medication at the time, and she sliced her wrist, and there was blood everywhere. She went out to Sid and said, "What have I done?" She doesn't know that she's doing these things. And, you know, it's horrible that Joey, Lorna, Liza, that they would have had to have witnessed something like that, because for a child, that would be, excuse my language, but that'd be fucking terrifying. Like,
What?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. It's one of the first rules of anything like that is, unless the person wants help, nothing is going to, you know, you can't force it.
Yeah, that was one thing, you know, the story that she told, I posted it on our YouTube as a Judy gem, where she speaks about her journey through the Boston hospital, and how she came to that decision herself to want to go, and how she knew that she was going too far down the wrong path, and she knew it was time to get help. And listening to her tell that story just made me like so proud of her, you know, just so proud that she was able to come to that realization herself. And one of the biggest reasons she did it was because she's a mom. You know, she wanted to make herself better for Liza. She wanted to continue being a good role model and just get her health back. And she, you know, that's another myth, that she was always, well, she's just a drug addict. She made these choices herself. And that was a myth that Mickey Rooney, unfortunately, really, you know, tried to hammer that one strong, that she did have a choice, and nobody's responsible for Judy Garland's death other than herself, you know. And it's like, well, no, because you take a look at all of the steps that she took herself to try to get herself better. She hit all of them. Like, you know, she made sure that she was going to get the right help. It was her that wanted to go to Boston, her that wanted to get healthy again, her that wanted to put on weight. She stopped all of her medication when she was pregnant with Liza. She wanted a better life. And it was the studio. It was the pressures of the studio, pressures of always having to work, that kept putting her back on it. She didn't have any other way to get through that kind of pressure. So she went back to the only way she ever knew. And you know, and that's one thing that I so respect about her, is that she knew when enough was enough. She knew when it was time to get that help. And, you know, anyway, I'm just waffling on now, but
You've just reminded me of something there, that even though they're, I don't know what way you describe them, but the Judy Speaks tapes, like, do you know the way there's some of them are slowed down to make her sound more slurry and all that than she actually is. But I think it's very telling that in one of those ones where she's quite angry and upset, and she goes, "There's more than Over the Rainbow or the Trolley Song or The Man That Got Away." She goes, "There is a woman, there are 3 children." And it's very telling that that's the second thing she says.
Yeah.
After herself as a woman, there's 3 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think every time she went back to work from the 50s, it was to support the children.
Yeah.
It was. That was and Sid's gambling. But
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 isn't that why she agreed to the Judy Garland show in a way? Because, you know, it was packaged to her as a $24 million sort of contract. And she's like, I want stability to have a home for my children, and I can put the money away for them and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
and it was all to be closer to them too,
Yeah.
so that she wouldn't have to move around
No, yeah.
without them. She wanted a stable, normal childhood for her children.
yeah.
That she didn't have.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what you were saying about her trying to get help, Carly, I mean, it's also very telling that she probably, again, the time period, I don't think she had a chance, because they now know from doing rehab that all the kids had addictions as well.
Mhm.
And obviously, Lorna speaks about in a book from going to Bessie Ford, which they didn't have in Judy's day. They've got a pre-certain genetic thing to addiction. It goes beyond Judy, the addiction in their family. They literally, Judy's granddaughters had addiction. I think that they are, unfortunately, if they like any kind of substance, whether it be alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, I think they've not got a chance. They're going to get addicted if they've got that genetic thing.
Yeah, it's predisposition, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You're right. It is a genetic thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But isn't it very, sorry.
Can be.
Go on.
So isn't it very telling though that despite all these stories about Joe with the butcher's knife, we've got the stories about them emptying the pills, putting sugar in, the night raids, the seizures, that every single one of her children always speak so highly of her.
Yeah.
Because they know she did her best. They know that she tried. They know that she loved her. There was never a doubt in any of their minds that she loved them. She made the best of every situation. And I think I remember Liza saying something where she would turn anything negative that happened to them into a comedy routine. And that was for them. That was so that was masking, trying to mask, the negativity and making it something positive. And she did that with nearly everything, but she always made sure to not shelter them, but shield them,
It's a bit like they're putting on all the clothes to leave the hotel room.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Turn it into a game, make it funny, It's a desperate situation in reality, but...
And I think the kids, they've all said as well, they've only now looking back there, she was terrified, but she's like, making this a game for them.
I mean, how horrific must it be, as a parent, that number one, you're living in a hotel, and number two, you can't pay the bill in the hotel and they're going to just kick us out. So like, we have to sneak to another hotel. Like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older as well, like, maybe it happened earlier for you, Carly, because you are a mother, but if you're not a parent, as you get older, you just realize your own parents were just doing the best they could at the time with whatever knowledge they already had. Like, there's no manual, there's no anything. You're trying to plod along the best you can.
Yeah.
But I think the kids were the highlights of her world, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They were her whole life. And I can't remember who said it. It might have been June Allison or someone in one of the many documentaries. Someone said that they were so relieved to hear when Judy was pregnant with Liza.
It was June, yeah.
Was it June? Yeah, because finally she had someone to love unconditionally. And he would love her right back just the same, with no doubt. She was over the moon about those children. Yeah.
She reminds me a lot of Marilyn in that way. Now, I know Marilyn never had any children, but any of the stories of Marilyn that, she seemed to dote on children, and just would have been a very good parent. And I only heard a story recently, the link I sent today of Lorna's new interview. She tells a story that Lorna woke up as a child and Marilyn Monroe was sitting on her bed.
Yeah, I heard that the other week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just because she wanted, like, she was obviously visiting Sid and Judy's house or whatever. She just wanted to visit the children.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, maybe in some people in today's world would be like, that's creepy, but like, it
Probably.
you know, but it's not. Like,
No.
that's very sweet, I think.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
It does make you wonder how things for Madeline would have turned out if she'd have
Yeah,
kids, because she lost so many, like Liza.
like Liza.
She had a stillborn little girl, didn't she?
Mm.
And I think she had some miscarriages.
I think she had several miscarriages. And
Yeah.
there's an interview, I don't know if either of you have seen it, in the early 80s with Liza. So she's in her kind of middle to late 30s or whatever. And she's very candid in it. And she goes, I want a baby. I really want to have a baby. And it's actually heartbreaking, you know.
In conclusion, here is a wonderful quote from Liza Minnelli. I think she was just tired, like a flower that gives joy and beauty to the world and then wilts away. I just want to send her off as she would have wanted to go, bright and lovely. Oh, by the way, this is her speaking on the death, obviously, of losing her mom. My mother had that wild, impatient streak to live. I wish you'd mention the joy she had for life. That's what she gave me. It was her love of life that carried her through everything. The middle of the road was never for her. It bored her. She wanted the pinnacle of excitement. If she was happy, she wasn't just happy, she was ecstatic. And then when she was sad, she was sadder than anybody. She lived 80 lives in one, and yet I thought she would outlive us all. She was a great star and a great talent for the rest of my life, and for the rest of my life, I will be proud to be Judy Garland's daughter. She always told me I was living proof that she was a good woman, and I intend to live up to that. We loved our mother very much, and it was a love we shared with millions of people. The only thing that comforts us now is the thought that nothing can destroy that love or the legend she created. To us, that was and always will be a beautiful thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so true.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So true. So
Yeah.
true.
And as much as I know, as much of people have tried to destroy that love, as Liza mentions, the kids know the truth.
Yeah.
And no one can take that away from them.
No.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on another episode of the Garland Gab. Please do, if you like our content, give us a like, give us a share, ring that bell to get notified of our future content, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.